What's up, guys? It's Boondocks, and today I want to talk about the new Prime Pack that just came out, the Mirage Prime Pack. And if you haven't bought into Primes before, specifically when it comes to frames, you don't really gain all that much as far as stat bonuses are concerned. For instance, as far as Mirage here is concerned, all she actually gets is an increase in her armor by, I think, 95 or 85, and then some energy as well. Outside of that, like, none of your abilities gain any extra power, so it's mostly for cosmetic. But I gotta tell you right now, the cosmetics for this new Mirage Prime are spot on, in my opinion. I mean, just look at this. Does she not look like some sort of demon creature ninja? Like, look at those horns, look at the face mask, just look at those, like, ridges going across from, like, her collarbone down underneath her arm. I absolutely love this whole design to Mirage, and I gotta tell you, I'm impressed. Absolutely. To be fair, the last Prime that came out, Hydroid, I was just as impressed with him, and now I'm even more so impressed with Mirage. They're really hitting it out of the park recently, in my opinion, when it comes to your Prime frames. So as you can see, I do have like this red and black color scheme going, mostly to try to make her look a little more demon-like, mostly due to the horns. Then I added the white in here to really accent that, like, face mask, as well as these ridges here on the collar. As far as Prime access is concerned, you get a couple things. One, you get these arm, leg, and chest pieces, and I gotta tell you, to me, they don't really fit this particular character model. They're a little too bulky. As you can see, Mirage herself is actually a relatively small frame, especially the primed version. Very petite, if you will. They've changed up her bulky legs by adding like these little, if you can see them here, you might be able to see them when they're not black a little bit better. These little cloth parts, as opposed to just having a big bulge of a leg. So now, adding on bulgy shoulder pads, chest piece, and legs, they don't really fit. I mean, while the shoulder pads are alright, and they kind of do blend in with her headpiece a little bit, her chest is just kind of like stacked on the end of her boobs. And then if you look at her leg piece, they were just kind of sticking out there as well. Like, she has a little V shape on the leg here, and then the pads are just stuck to it. I don't like it. That's me. As far as her Sandana is concerned, I'm going to show it off here on her base colors. These are the base colors for them. They're relatively interesting. Like, let's take a quick look at it. It's just this nice little violet, nice little pink, and then your standard Oricon Gold and Oricon Blue. And that's her base Sandana. Now, if I drop the base, her colors off of it, you can see it's mostly just black, white, and gold with some blue highlights, your normal Oricon colors. However, one thing here, I personally feel like they should have held off on this particular design until, I know it would have been long down the pipeline, but something like Nidus Prime came out, because if you look, this design's very organic. It's very thick, very growth-oriented. A good example is the epoxy here. Or, there's a couple that look very tentacle, or just like living style Sandanas, and to me, they should have held off with this one in particular until they came with a more organic frame. I don't feel like it fits Mirage. That being said, I absolutely love her overall design, specifically with the helm. The helm, I think, is amazing, and I really look forward to what some talented people can think of in the future to combine that helm with a more spiky, demon-like body. Just because I really think she looks badass as a demon. Here I kind of tried to go for more of a copper color, with the green supposed to being like copper after it's been oxidized. Obviously, if I wanted to go with a real green, I should go for a little bit more dark, so I would go more like on the Shamrock here for a true oxidized. But I wanted to glow a little bit green, brighter with her eyes. With that being said, let's talk about our weapons real quick, and then I'm going to go kind of demonstrate a little bit what's going on here, as well as talk about where Mirage currently stands within the quote-unquote meta. So with regards to the weapons, let me just swap this over to nothing, and then pop back in, just so we can see a clean sheet. Holy shit, look at this crit. 36% crit. Whew. So let's toss on a quick pistol gambit. Boom. That's just a regular pistol gambit. It's already bringing it to 79.2% chance to crit. So you're pretty much going to feel like you're critting all the time, as it does when you're most people's builds with Soma Prime. So let's add on a little bit more. So there's a creeping bullseye. Toss that on. 96.5. That's pretty much 100% crit. I mean, if you just want 100% crit, get a Prime Pistol Gambit. 103.3. Done. Wipe your hands of that shit. I mean, of course, you know, you have other things that you could also use to boost it up a little bit as far as your total crit damage is concerned. With my particular build, I'm just going to be using these two. I'm not going to be using anything like hydraulic crosshairs and that type of stuff, because to me, it's a little bit overkill at that point. Right here. Not necessarily as necessary as some other builds. So I'm just going to use these two to get that 5.9 and the 103% chance. So as you can see, outside of that, it's going to be your standard build with Barrel Diffusion, Lethal Hornet Strike. I am going to be using an Augur Pact instead of a third Elemental. And then I'm going to... Oh, I forgot to swap that back. There we go. I forgot to talk about the Heated Charge and Convulsion for Radiation. Feel free to swap out the Heated Charge for something like Pathogen Rounds to get your Corrosive in there. Whatever you're feeling like. I personally just use the Heated Charge here because you get to 135. But in all honesty, Corrosive might actually beat the 90% from Augur Pact. Anyway, moving on to the newest weapon. It's the melee weapon specifically, the Kogake. So these, if we bump it over here, if we look at the stats, not exactly impressive as far as crit's concerned. It's not horrible. I've seen worse by far. The multiplier is pretty shit. It's not even at 2. It's only 1.8 starting. But then look at the status chance. Oh my god. And with the fact that Condition Overload is quickly becoming like the go-to mod as far as put this on a build, have a lot of fun. Yeah. The one issue I have though is with the punching style melee weapons. They can only hit a single target at the time. I'm almost certain on that. I could be a little bit wrong. They might be able to hit 2, but it's not like you're going to have those big sweeping weapons like Atarax, or your heavy blades Galentine, or your pole arms like Orthos Prime or Cassowar. So instead you're only going to be able to take out one target, but you feel badass doing it, and I'll show that off a little bit later. But as you can see, with just, what, 1, 2, 3 dual stat mods, I'm at 95.2. In all honesty, if you were to toss on a couple format on here, I would actually recommend taking off one of these dual stat mods and instead substituting it for your regular mod, for the fact that you'll get more damage, and as you can see, it's at 74.8. In all honesty, taking off 2 and getting down to 54% might be worthwhile. And that's because if you look at the attack speed, with just having a Prime Fury on here, the Kogake will attack extremely fast. But since I don't actually feel like formatting these, they're not my playstyle. In fact, if we look at the regular Kogake, no Forma, level 0. I'm not even bothering leveling them again after I leveled them and sold them back in the day. So, with that being said, let's go over to the simulator. Later, I'm going to show off the 2 main weapons and then kind of talk about how Mirage is powerful, and also why she's not played nearly as much as she used to be. Something I kind of overlooked when I talked about nerfs that happened when talking about Maiming Strike. Anyways, let's kind of pop this out. I did set this to Invincible, but the enemies are level 150, and that's because I don't want to use any of Mirage's abilities and instead just focus on the damage. As you can see, every time I shoot with my Akbolto, I'm doing crits, and it's ridiculous amounts of damage. I mean, it feels very Soma-like, to be honest. As you can see, right there was one orange crit, and that was from that 3% chance to get the orange. With that being said, let's kill these enemies and show less common or more common enemies, but less tanky. So we're going to pop on just regular Corrupted Lancers, still going to be level 150, simulate, just to show how powerful these things are. And this is with just 2 form up. Well, I forgot to reload. As you can see, I'm also pretty shit with them. I'm bad at landing headshots. You could land headshots for days. Get some hydraulic crosshairs in here. These things would absolutely light up these enemies. Against weaker enemies like this as well, radiation damage actually outperforms corrosive, in my opinion. They tend to just drop a little bit quicker. So, now while they're still up, let's kill them off, respawn them, and show the Kogake Prime. Now these weapons, they're just cool to watch and how they attack. I mean, all the fist weapon melee combos are just fun as hell. Man, look at this shit. You can get them in like crazy grab holds and slam them into the ground, do like spin kicks. I don't know, there's just something about it that's a lot of fun. And with the status chance that I have on here, as you can see, they just strip. Get stripped completely. Combining that with condition overload makes it so that these weapons do ridiculous amounts of ammo. I cannot speak. I apologize. I have been drinking a lot of apple pie whiskey. So, with that in mind, let's bump up the difficulty, and I'll show why I'm not a huge fan of the Kogake, and that's because of the single target. So let's drop these enemies and instead pop on the Corrupt Heavy Gunners in their place. Hop down here real quick. And yeah, I'm still doing a decent amount of damage. I have a little bit of AoE from those slam attacks, but it takes way too long to actually like kill the enemy and control everything around you. You have to kill one at a time, more or less. And to me, that's problematic, even though you look badass doing it. I don't know. It reminds me a lot of looking like Valkyr, in my opinion. And there's something about that that's just really cool. Plus, the fist weapons look badass with the skin, in my opinion. So, what would I do instead? I would actually build something like the Castle War, which more or less gets built the same way. I do have a couple more form on this, but that's also to get around having to use this particular ability. Currently it's built for violent radiation, though I think I might have... No. You can, of course, build the Castle War for any type of elemental combination you want, including corrosive. And, of course, this is why I would use it. But what makes it really, truly powerful for Mirage? Because as you can see, it's doing relatively the same, right? Well, let me show you something a little interesting. Use her Hall of Mirrors. Activate her Eclipse. And now watch how fast this enemy dies. And again, this is groups of enemies. So, like, enemies all around me are dying from this. You just can't necessarily see them at all times. So, let's come over here. So why is she doing as much damage as she is? Well, she's ridiculous at self-buff. Absolutely ridiculous. And that's part of the reason why she used to be like a go-to damage frame, and unfortunately a couple nerfs to certain weapons kind of made her drop off, though she's can be a lot of fun. So let's kind of run through her abilities real quick just to wrap it up, talking about Mirage as a character herself. Let's kill off these enemies so that way we don't have to listen to them. And we will talk about the abilities. Alright, so Hall of Mirrors. As you can see with my current build, increases the damage by 50%. That's actually 50% per Hall of Mirror clone. And even though you spawn 4 clones, you're only going to be doing damage with 2 of them, and therefore this is only a 100% increase. Well, 100%, that's effectively double damage with all of your abilities. Kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. Not to mention, the fact that you're surrounded by 4 of them, I'll show here in a moment, it will let you survive a decent amount of damage. Sleight of hand, I honestly skip. Some people swear by the rework being worthwhile, but technically it's pretty much the same, and it's just not good. So I ignore it. Sorry, don't really know how to use it. My bad. Now Eclipse. this one's very interesting. If you look, even without having any mods on, it lasts a decent amount of time, has a 200% damage increase, and a 75% damage reduction. However, you only get that damage increase when you're in light, and only get that damage reduction when in darkness. Unfortunately, here in the simulator, I can't actually show you the darkness buff because everything's perfectly lit up, but I will show you that damage increase, which you might have seen already, of 506%. That's like 6 times multiplier for damage. Gets a little bit ridiculous. This particular ability makes Mirage amazing for whenever Ambulance shows up, because you can stay back where you hack and kill the bursts, where you're going to be getting that 95% damage reduction, and then move out whenever you down the Ambulance to do massive amount of damage with like the Opticore, getting 500% increase plus an additional 100% increase. Stupid amounts of damage. You will down that fucker real quick. Finally, Prism. Unfortunately, this is one of the big nerfs that hit Mirage. Basically, Prism you used to build for maximum range, screwed the power strength, and you could just blind entire maps worth of enemies. Solo, you could do intercept missions for as long as you wanted. That meant back when you had intercept and avoid, you can go into one intercept mission using a single key and get pretty much infinite rewards equal to the amount of time you're willing to invest. Unfortunately, they nerfed it by making the blind get blocked by pretty much anything, any object. So wall, box, whatever. Similar to, what is it? Excalibur's Radial Blind? Is that it? Radial something? Whatever. Sorry, again, apple pie whiskey. But I actually still like Prism for a certain thing, and I'll kind of point that out real quick. So, because if you look, she did have very long durations. The way I build her is... sorry, wrong button. The way I actually build her is high power strength, high duration, and then fuck efficiency and range. Because you're there to buff yourself, fuck everybody else. You're here to be just a weapon damage frame. And your efficiency, because you have such high durations, you don't need to worry about your efficiency. You're not going to be constantly casting. So with that in mind, I build specifically for my duration using Prime Continuity and Constitution. And then for my power strength, Blind Rage, Intensify, and Augur Secrets. I do know that Augur Secrets is a little expensive, so if you want, feel free to swap it out for a little bit more duration or even a little bit of tankiness. For my final duration, I also use Narrow-Minded. Sorry, I forgot that. Then Primed Flow, Redirection. Redirection purely because if you look at her base health, it's much lower than most other frames. Sorry, just how it is. Finally, Corrosive Projection, just because I tend to not like to swap up my builds all that often. Corrosive Projection, you're just always good against going against Grenier, whereas Energy Siphon would be the go-to if you're against infested Corpus for the most part. Corrosive is obviously better for both Grenier and Corrupted. And then Rush, because she's already a pretty quick frame, and I like moving that much quicker, especially since I typically play her melee. For a rather interesting build that I'm going to show off first, you can actually run a Prism setup, where, as you can see, I did sacrifice a little bit of power strength for more range. My efficiency stays low, and my duration is kind of irrelevant. You can drop off more duration for your efficiency, however, your Prism drains energy as well as only sticks around for X amount of time. So if you want to be able to set it and forget it while going in to pick up energy orbs, you're going to want a higher duration. So let me show this off real quick. Just drop that enemy, and we will pick up the Corrupted Lancers again. And let's set them for, let's say, 55. A decent level, not exactly ridiculous high, but, you know, something... God dang it. Something that you might want to go and farm experience with, for instance. You know, like, if you wanted to go to Hydron. I forgot to pick up energy. That's fine. I'm just going to cast a single ball down here. And as you can see, it absolutely just slags everything. I'll just cast another one here. And watch it just kill. It. I mean, the thing is ridiculous. I was having a lot of fun with it while I was leveling up my Mirage here. couple times over. Let's bump up the difficulty. I never actually saw how high I could go. So let's try 85. Let's kill all, simulate. Pick up more energy. 85s. Get my ball of death. Alright, so 85s kills the Lancers pretty quick. I mean, just look at that. With the range, you're just fucking constantly peppering these guys at max range. They're dead real quick. I do also use natural talent with this build to try to reduce the casting speed of your prism, because let me pop off that real fast. Go back to the other build, and I'll show you how long prism's cast time normally is. Yeah, you don't really want to have to do that while getting surrounded by enemies. So with that in mind, though, let's just one final beat down against Arid Heavy Gunners. Why not? Level 85 Arid Heavy Gunners. Let's also turn off invincibility. Whoops. Kill enemies. Select all. Simulate. So, no more invincibility. Let's go see what we can do against this while in melee form. As you can see, they're all targeting my Mirages instead of Mirage, my main frame. All my clones are getting targeted instead of my frame itself, and because of that, while you're not actually tanky, you can just kind of avoid damage. Meanwhile, just slashing through relatively high defense enemies using this particular build because of how much damage you're stacking up. Mirage is fun. She has just unfortunately fallen out the meta, and it's really no fault of her own. It's more or less certain nerfs to weapons like the Cyanoid Simular. Anyways, guys, hope you like the content, and until next time, like, comment, and subscribe. Good luck, have fun, and peace.